Moving on, this question comes in from J.Z. Obviously there are historic, mainstream accepted examples of hoaxes and staged events like the Gulf of Tonkin incident. Are there any other events that you lean towards being staged, a hoax, or that even crisis actors have been used for such events?
Yes, there are several that we've talked about on the program in the past. But I would say with the Gulf of Tonkin, I don't think staged is the right word. I don't think hoax is the right word. I think we have to look at specifically what did happen there, which was the Maddox was attacked on August 2nd by 3 North Vietnamese torpedo boats, and it did engage them. Was attacked, did attack them. There's still no definitive answer about what happened. But anyway, it did engage 3 North Vietnamese torpedo boats on August 2nd. And then on the 4th, the ship had radar, sonar, and radio signals that it was picking up that they interpreted as being boats, North Vietnamese boats, that they did evasive maneuvers, and they fired at those radar blips for hours, and they couldn't shake them. Eventually, the Navy reported that they sank 2 or 3 ships, and that became part of the whole story, although no wreckage was ever found. We now know, because there is actual documentary evidence that's finally come out, again, almost, 40 years later. Back in 2004, there was a National Security Archives release of a booklet that included some of the intercepts, not intercepts, but the conversations between McNamara and Johnson and things like that people didn't have access to before. And in 2005, there were even more records released from the NSA, the National Security Agency, the NSA that didn't exist at the time, right? Supposedly, officially. But again, even more information. We now know that the captain himself didn't know if he did or did not engage any ships, but he thought maybe there was nothing there. So by that evening, after the event occurred, he didn't know. He was thinking it probably didn't happen. And we know that McNamara, at least in the recorded conversations between McNamara and Johnson, again, they didn't know, but they decided to use it as, the pretext for what became the Vietnam War officially, really. So again, I don't know if staged or hoax is the right sense, because it's not like they paid actors or the captain was pretending to. He genuinely believed they might have perhaps engaged something. He thought they were doing evasive maneuvers against these blips, which may or may not have been a boat. They decided after the fact to promote it as an attack to justify the sending in to the beginning of the Vietnam War. So anyway, that's kind of a different thing. And I think a lot of these events are like that. They're not usually so clear-cut as saying staged or hoax might say. But there are incidents of that, and ones that we've talked about before. A couple months ago on New World Next Week, me and James talked about paid actors for political campaigns. And there's the example of the rally where Trump announced his presidential bid. There was a casting agency, Extra Mile Casting, that was paying $50 a pop for people to go there, wear shirts, hold signs. And we know this because we actually know one of the actors by name, Dom DeLaGuido, I think was his name. Let me actually get that correctly. I haven't noted down here.
Yeah. Del Giaccio,
yes. And we have his Instagram where he posted that, and it's an actor. He was a paid actor. He is an actor. So we know that there are paid people in campaigns like that to, swell the ranks of the minions who adore these political candidates when they arrive on the scene. Hillary's done the same thing. So we've talked about that. We talked about I did that interview with Lionel about media fakery, where we talked about that scene that was shot on a set that was meant to look like Syria, and it was meant to be this dramatic moment of this little boy going to save this little girl from sniper fire. And it's just this dramatic, 10, 15 seconds of video that really, it was kind of a test. Will the media pick up on it and report it? And they did. And they said, yes, this is from Syria. And look at this dramatic image. And it got lots of press and headlines. And then it came out, oh, no, it was fake. It was actors on a stage. And yeah, so that we talked about that. And at some length, you can go and listen to that conversation. That whole conversation was about the media fakery. I've done GRTV reports about how media lies and fakery and manipulations are used to get us into war time and time again. So definitely we talked about that. And either James or myself or both of us at some point on New World Next Week, or maybe it was on Morning Monarchy, maybe it was in the subscriber newsletter, we've talked about that recent story that came up about the live video morphing technology they have, where they can take someone's video and actually make their mouth move in ways that the actual person is not moving in live real time. I mean, it's, yeah, anyway, Broc will throw some of that up on the screen while I'm talking so you can see it. It's craziness. So that stuff does exist. Staging and hoaxing in various ways and examples does exist. But I think the most important part for me is what I can prove, rather than what I see as a worrying trend towards using logically fallacious arguments that are arguments from incredulity that then end with a non sequitur, which is basically saying, I don't believe that such and such could be like that, like what we see on the screen. Therefore, well, the logically fallacious argument is, I don't believe that could happen, therefore it didn't happen. That's a logically fallacious argument. It may or may not be correct, but it's logically fallacious. But it's not even that. It's not, I don't believe that could happen there that way, therefore it's that scene is fake. It's, I don't believe it could happen that way, therefore nothing happened. Which is a whole different, that's a non sequitur leap into itself, that we can now talk about, you know, the entire event based on the fact that this one image doesn't look right for this or that reason. I think there's a huge logical leaps that are being made in a lot of these claims. And that's what worries me, because, again, it can be very easily gamed and manipulated and used as the new meme to get people off into directions that ultimately don't matter, because you're missing the bigger geopolitical scene of what's going on. And so I think I understand why that's appealing, because it's very easy to look at a little bit of video and say, that doesn't look right, therefore nothing happened, rather than looking at the connections and of who's behind this and the players and the geopolitical ramifications. That's a lot of work. So I realize just looking at video and saying that doesn't look right is a lot easier. So anyway, yes, I mean, staging and manipulation and hoaxes happen all the time, but I just like to be careful about what I can prove and what I can demonstrate and what I can't.